Welcome back to the Sports Ranter. Thank you to our hosts, Nico and Ben, for joining us here today at the finale of the football season. Okay, and the reason why we're here, guys, is we're still going to get ready. We're pushing through the end of April, through the free agency frenzy, through the draft, and we're going to make sure we're gathering enough information for our viewers around the world and our subscribers to make sure that you guys have enough information to prepare yourself going into next year's championship run. And so, like I said, just to let you give guys a heads up. Right now, we're getting ready to hear about the franchise tags for each team, who they're going to keep around their team. Also, in mid March is when the free agency market opens. And then, obviously, at the end of April, we're looking at the draft for the new rookies that are coming into the league that are going to impact your fantasy football team. Thank you, Seth, for joining us today. Um, Please, if you got any questions, just to remind our viewers, your questions in the chat box is our number one content here. We're gonna erase everything we want to say, and we're gonna respond to your guys' questions while you guys are here. But with that said, like I said, guys, from now on, as a fantasy manager, we're just gathering information with what's happening in the off season to set things up. And so there's a couple of things that are happening right now, like Aaron Rodgers. There's rumors that Aaron Rodgers is gonna be a Raider, okay, or there's still coach vacancies happening, and so we still don't have a full spectrum to give you guys what's going to happen next year. But just to let you know before I pass it to Nick, going forward, we are going to go over each team for the next 8 episodes. We're going to go over the state of the franchise and give you the starting lineup, the coaches. We're going to give you a grade of the offensive line and the defense to kind of give you a scope of each team, because I believe as a fantasy manager, the best way, other than drafting well and doing waiver wires, if you have a full scope of the league, it really does help going into the next season if you have a full scope of what's happening around the league. For instance, guys like Brock Bowers, if you didn't know, he was a rookie last year. He was a top tight end, and he's going to be sought out in the higher rounds next year. So, anyways, with that being said, Nick, there's rumors Aaron Rodgers is not going to be a Jet anymore. So, is he still going to land a starting spot? Or is it now the time come where Aaron Rodgers just needs to be a backup, buddy? Like you've done enough.
Well, honestly, I think it's even a third option. I think retirement is the other option.
Wow.
Because I don't know if he has the personality or the will to be a backup, to be honest, especially after starting so many years. I think he's gonna be 40 or he already is 40. Like, who wants to be a 40-year-old backup? Real rare type of real rare type of human being who wants to be a 40-year-old. And most of the time when they are that, it's somebody who was a lifetime backup. They just keep going. But I don't think, we've seen star quarterbacks after 40 then just take a backup role. Well, you might as well retire. So I listened this morning. Someone was pretty adamant that the Raiders are a legit landing spot for him, like as far as like a bridge quarterback, new regime,
Wow.
get us back on our feet, and then still draft or get a young guy to develop. Um, Again, I'm not the biggest Rodgers fan. As a Raider fan, I don't really know how I feel about that. Again, these are all speculations, so nothing's concrete here. But they were just saying, as far as fit, if you're a contender, you probably have your quarterback, but if even if you don't, like, I don't even know, like, if you're the Steelers, do you want to bring Aaron Rodgers in? Uh all the other playoff teams, are have their quarterback. I mean, if you're the Colts, like, do you want to bring Aaron Rodgers in? Because Anthony Richardson, there's a couple fringe teams like that is Aaron Rodgers' personality and everything he brings and baggage, is it worth it, or is he really going to take you over the top? Because the problem with that is the Jets were that, right? Everybody thought the Jets were one quarterback away, and they weren't. Maybe they were, but with the baggage that he comes with and all that stuff. So, they're looking Aaron Rodgers' best case scenario is going to an up and coming team that needs a bridge quarterback like the Raiders. So I kind of agree with what they're saying. Again, they also brought up Russell Wilson back to the Raiders with Pete Carroll as being the bridge quarterback. Again, I don't know if I like either one of these options. As a fan, I just hope it works, right? Like it's
Right.
kind of like the Sam Darnold thing. It's like, was everybody in Minnesota excited for Sam Darnold? JJ McCarthy got hurt. They're like, our season's over, right? Like, we're not gonna be any good, and Sam Darnold goes on. So that's honestly that's what I would just as a fan, not as an analyst, as a fan in me would be like, could we, strike lightning in a bottle with Pete Carroll, with like an Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson, just as the Raiders figure out their long term success. But Russell Wilson is a Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, Sam Darnold is another one. Like, where do we think he's gonna go? Minnesota said they're not gonna franchise him, is what I heard. So they might let him go on free agency market, which is a little weird because you would maybe think get something for him and not just let him walk. Um, but yeah, as far as fantasy related, like there's, I don't know, like if this was the topic for today, but there's a lot of like free agency is always a big thing, and people sign these 1 year deals, 2 year deals, and how are they going to do it at their new place? Some are bust, some are not, some work out, some don't, injuries, all that. So it's really big on who you want to. Joe Mixon was one, right?
Mm.
Everybody,
Wow.
late running backs, J.K. Dobbins, you know,
Wow.
obviously Aaron Jones, you mentioned in Arizona. Like, there's running backs out there that either switch teams or don't. Um, I want to touch on the receivers a little bit. Just, I mean, everybody knows T. Higgins. Chris Godwin is eligible to be free agency. Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs,
Wow.
DeAndre Hopkins, Deontay Johnson. So there's going to be a lot of movement. No, these are a little older guys, but still, like, we saw Chris Godwin's production at the beginning of the year last year, and he was killing it before he got hurt. So there's a lot of guys that people will forget about. And again, here on the Sports Rancers, we don't forget about them. We're gonna keep you
Mm-hmm.
guys, you know, all educated up with these older vets that are gonna make big impacts on these new teams that they go to. We just, again, that's why we're here through the draft, and you'll hear about it, but we don't know where these guys are going yet, and it's going to be a big splash like it is every offseason. Um, so yeah, that's my take on as far as like free agencies going into the year and quarterback. Honestly, to make it personal on the Raiders, I just I want a chance, like a chance at the playoffs. I want to be competitive. If Aaron Rodgers will do that for us, fine. I got to trust. I have all the trust in Pete Carroll, so I know he's going to do his homework. Whoever they bring in at quarterback, I'm going to have trust that he can get the best out of that person, whoever that may be, for the time being, if we're able to either trade up and get a guy, or again, there's not really a free agents. I don't think Sam Darnold's a long-term answer. I really don't. But it would be drafting a guy or drafting a guy. I don't know. There's always guys in the third, fourth round that you just pick as developmental guys and end up being all right. So that's my 2 cents on that topic.
Well, like I said, a couple years ago, as far as Aaron Rodgers is concerned, I just knew it. I knew it was going to be a shit show, and it sucks
Yeah,
that he
you
got
called it.
injured. I don't wish it on anybody, but it was still a shit show regardless. I think as a fan, even though the way you feel about Aaron Rodgers, I would like for him to at least go out a different way. Like, first off, going to the Jets was a mistake, anyways. So I don't know what it was, like the contract, the whole idea of his personality going to that market. The chemistry was just off. And so, as a fan, I think we're owed one more time, if he can still throw the ball, you know, give us one more chance where he can go to a team and actually win games again. Because it wasn't like they weren't competing in these games. They were in it. They just weren't going over the hump. It wasn't bouncing their way because that organization is still trash. So I'm hoping as a fan, even though I'm not the biggest Aaron Rodgers, you know, guy, I think we owe it. He can go somewhere and be effective, and help some of these receivers, right? That we don't know are on a team yet. So we'll see. Maybe even, I don't know. We'll see what happens. And so, but yeah, what's also interesting, like you said, the franchise tag is coming up, and so we want to see who they're going to keep off the market, you know. And so number one is T. Higgins. I wish Jake was here to talk about some T. Higgins, you know, but
I want the Raiders to go get him.
there you
Really do.
go. There you go. There's a big rave about it, dude. He's a good receiver, and I know Joe Burrow has caught a lot of frack in the last couple weeks because he's been saying he's willing to take a pay cut to keep both Higgins and Jamari Chase. You know, apparently that's the way you have to do things if you want to win nowadays is take the pay cut, which is fine. But T. Higgins has proven himself a valuable receiver in this league. And so Cincinnati is going to have to figure that out if they want to keep him around. And obviously, what I think is interesting is Sam Darnold. The Vikings are also notorious for having a successful quarterback for a season and saying bye bye, like we're good. You know, like we've got it figured out on our end. Thank you for your services. They did it to Case Keenum for Kirk Cousins, and it just drives me wild. It drives me wild. You know, it's like as a sports person, you always want to ride the hot hand, right? And not just give it away on a silver platter. You know, if you have the money to make to keep that continuity, that's important in this league. In a game of inches where things change every year, it really is important to just keep continuity, not only at the head office but also on the fields. You know, so
What
I'm
makes that interesting too, Ben, is like your next in line is a rookie quarterback in essence that we've never seen play
right,
in the league. So, at least like the case Keenum for Kirk Cousins, they knew what he was in the Redskins. They knew, you know what I mean? Like you seen him as NFL quarterback. They said, hey, Kirk Cousins is an upgraded Case Keenum. Cool, fine, respectable. We'll understand that. Are you sure JJ McCarthy's better than Sam Darnold?
right,
Like you see him in practice, fine. Are you sure? Like what's wrong with him? One more year coming back at an injury, like let him sit one more year under Sam Darnold while you figure this thing out. Like I don't to let him walk for nothing after the season he's had makes no sense to me.
right,
Franchise him at least. I know you're gonna pay him whatever the $35 million it is for a franchise tag for a quarterback. But um, you know, I think it's worth the quarterback position is so crucial, and I think it's worth it to see even more of what you get from JJ, until you find out what you get from JJ. So that's something that's going to be fascinating to see, moving forward. And then the other situation that I'm fascinated to see is the whole Brown situation. I mean, I feel like we're going to talk about it every offseason until he's not in the NFL anymore. But what do you do with, well, you can't do anything with Deshaun Watson. Like, do you go another year with him as a starter? Like, that's another one. I'm like, dude, that's just a horrible and shitty situation because his contract is fully guaranteed. You have no out. Like, you have no out. So, you know, are they going to do a Denver and just, hey, we're going to swallow it? Other teams can pick them up for one for the league minimum, like they did Russell Wilson, and so be it. Um, that's another interesting situation because the Browns there for a minute there looked like they were looking pretty promising, right? They were in the playoff hunt. They had some good decent years there where they were up and coming. That defense, Miles Garrett. Now Miles Garrett wants out. It just sucks, and the Raiders are there, the last 20 years anyways. Just like these franchises that seem to can't figure it out. They get good for a couple years and you think, okay, here we go, and then, down the toilet again. So that's another fascinating situation. This whole draft, there's a lot of situations out there, especially quarterback, which, the reason why we're talking about is going to impact fantasy like drastically because Tennessee, what is Tennessee doing? Are they staying with Will Levis? This doesn't look like they like him. Are they drafting the quarterback? You know, the Giants, they're going to draft a quarterback. Maybe. Some people are saying no. Maybe they get Travis Hunter, who's going to be the Giants quarterback. Like the quarterback play affects so many teams, especially for fantasy and the receivers. Like where are you going to draft Malik Neighbors depending on the quarterback, right? Some guys are like, I don't care. We thought that with Justin Jefferson, right? Who's going to be the quarterback for Justin Jefferson? Does he fall a little bit? Now, most people, I don't think he fell that much because Justin Jefferson's a monster, you know? So is Malik Neighbors that monster guy where it doesn't matter who's quarterback, right? You know, that's it's there's a lot of interesting quarterback situations. Like I said, we already mentioned some, the Colts, obviously the Raiders, you know, stuff like that. So, um, this is what I really wish the Raiders would have got a quarterback last year.
Right,
This is
rather
not
than
a good
being in
year.
this
This is not a
race.
good year to need a quarterback. It's not a good year in my mind.
Seth is a little frustrated as an Eagle fan, even though he won the Super Bowl. Seth
Oh,
is already
get out of here.
Seth is
Get out of
already
here,
fucking
Seth.
frustrated
Gosh,
that
dang it, Seth.
all all these high names are somehow going to the Commanders, right? With this Jalen Daniels, this new vibe that's happening out there. So you can see that it's very, very attractive, right? I'm a free agent. I want to go to a competing team. They're the NFC Championship game. So Seth is already communicating that that's kind of bugging him a little bit. That all these teams are going to the Commanders, and the league and the world is loving the Commanders right now. Not as much as we love the Eagles right now, Seth. It's only going to last a couple more weeks, okay? But we love you. I thought it was freaking funny during the parade where the governor of Philadelphia said that we have the new America's team. That was a jab. If you don't know, you don't know. But that was a jab towards the Cowboys.
Absolutely.
So that's pretty
Look,
funny.
I will, Seth. The reason why no one's talking about the Eagles, and to give you guys credit where credit is due, you guys are loaded.
Yeah.
Like it is what it is. Like what why would anybody be like, "Oh, they're all going to go to the Eagles?" One, you guys got to pay some guys. You guys' salary cap not the best situation. Now, it doesn't matter. You guys are stacked, but you got to decide you're going to pay the linemen, you got D linemen to pay, you got Zach Vaughn to pay, you got some guys who balled out, Zach
Notable
Vaughn
free agents.
all pro. You got your own free agents you got to sign first or let go and then try to draft young and figure out what you're going to do, you know, there. So, you know, you already got A.J. Brown locked up, Devontae Smith locked up, obviously Jalen Hurts, Barkley's locked up. Like, you guys got all your skill players locked up, you know, Goddard and all that stuff. So there's not many holes other than, you know, paying the guys that balled out, but you're not gonna be able to pay all of them. So, you know, that's a testament to the Eagles, you guys being stacked that where Washington, right? Washington's defense wasn't that great. You know, they can use some more help weapons wise. All they got is McLaurin there, you know, and stuff like that. So, yeah, you want to go play with the promising rookie. Look at CJ Stroud. The reason why. What? Where did Stephon Diggs go last year, right? Let's go join the promising rookie CJ Stroud, right? Let's go join that team, the up and coming team, the you know NFL's darling at that moment. Well, last year was Washington. It is what it is, you know. And when you have a chance to go play with the generational quarterback, as people think C.J. Stroud was, and you know Jalen Daniels is, as they believe. You know, you have a chance, just like the Patrick Mahomes. You feel if you go to that team, you have a chance to win for the next 5, 6, 7 years, you know, versus, you know, a one and done team or whatever. So, you know, I think you're more frustrated that they're in your division than it's just the new darling of the NFL.
No, but I think it's true. Like there's an attractive factor to the Commanders, but that's what's happening. That's what we're doing, guys. Here as fantasy owners, we're paying attention. Get an open scope of what's happening around the league, who wants to go where because of the things that are in place. Jalen Daniels is a hot commodity, but for some reason it reminded me. You're right. The Eagles are stacked. And the Commanders need the help, and the Detroit needs some help on that defense, losing as many guys as they needed. So it really is going to be an interesting off season to see how some of these teams, like for instance, the Detroit Lions here were an offensive powerhouse last year, but they got hurt with injuries and they weren't able to overcome. I'm sorry, Seth. As much as I'm happy, but the Eagles won. It should have been the Lions. Okay, it should have been the Lions to just kind of even out the playing field with the league, and so, but anyways, so we got that's what's coming up, guys. Is we got we still have some quarterback shuffling happening for the offseason. We're gonna pay attention to the franchise tags. Chris Godwin is a big one. You know, Chris Godwin has been nothing but productive in Tampa Bay. So why would you not want to keep him? But he has his own right. He doesn't have. He has to be released, right? They can't. It would either be franchise tag Chris Godwin or release
No,
him.
no, I think he's becoming a free agent. I don't know if he's eligible for a franchise. It depends. The franchise tag is always um I don't understand it completely because sometimes they're eligible for franchise and sometimes they're not. It depends what contract they're on and all that kind of stuff. Let me see.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so in March, it's in March it says he becomes a free agent. So I don't know if he's eligible if they have to franchise him prior, which I don't think they will just because he got hurt. But either way, he'll be a free agent in March.
well, fantastic. Well, Seth, while you're here, while you're listening, we're gonna let you know what the plan is going forward for the next 8 episodes. What we're gonna do is we're gonna do for you and for the rest of the viewers to get ready for next season. Is we're gonna do like a state of the franchise type thing. We're gonna pick a division. All four of us are gonna go over the team, and we're gonna go over like the head coach, give an offensive line grade, a defensive grade, all the starters for the offense, and just kind of go over what's happening per franchise so we all have a good scope going into next season. Like I said before draft day, you want to gather as much information as possible as a manager to make those indications. For instance, everybody thought I was crazy for drafting, even Chuba Hubbard. They thought it was crazy, which is fine. But the reason why is because I paid attention. Being a Panthers fan, it wasn't just that I was in love with it. No, I paid attention to the offseason. I paid attention to what was happening at camp. I paid attention to what they were saying. I paid attention to the contracts that they signed. Everything about it said that this guy's going off. And so when he's there late, you can't pass him up over these upsides or over these other no-namers. No, you got to take a person in a solid situation, a good O-line, a good coach, all the above. All these things apply when you're drafting in August. And um, so yeah, I appreciate that. So
Yeah,
that's what we're
or not be afraid of the rookie. So like in that
100%.
situation, I remember in that situation where you got to you got to take a gamble. I don't know if it's a big gamble like you said with Chuba Hubbard, but where most people why Chuba Hubbard fell down is
Brooks,
Stewart,
Jonathan Brooks.
Jonathan Brooks. Sorry, I was like, it's not Stewart. That's
Yeah,
the
yeah,
only
yeah,
running.
yeah.
Jonathan Brooks, and his stud. And so everyone was like, oh, after week 4, he could come in. What is he going to look like? So are you getting a 4-week rental or are you not?
Yeah.
Those are the tough situations. And there
Mm,
wasn't an answer then. When we all drafted him, there wasn't an answer. Like
right.
everybody
Sure.
knew Jonathan Brooks was the best running back in the league. He was coming off injury reserved. Yeah, Ben, like you said, hey, I follow him. I still like Chuba Hubbard. I'll gamble on him. But it could have been bad too. It could have been a 4-week rental. Like we those are the things, we don't know. Look what happened in Tampa Bay, right? Bucky Irving ended up taking that backfield. So if you know, drafted his name just left. Who was the running back for Tampa Bay?
Fucking A, dude. Good question.
Exactly. My point is, we all forgot about him
Yeah, yeah,
because of
yeah,
Bucky Irving.
yeah.
So prove my point.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
all
yeah.
forgot about him because of Bucky Irving. So those are the risks you have when you have this rookie running back looming
Hmm.
that everybody knows is talented. And so yeah, fancy's about risk taking. How much risk do you want to take? And it kind of also depends. Again, I said this last week. Your roster construction. So have you up to that point, let's say for Ben, do you feel solid enough, maybe in your wide receiver and your tight end room, right? Where you're like, I can take a gamble on this running back. That's where, but if you already gambled on receiver, so to speak, let's just say, or
Right.
you already gambled on a tight end, or your first running back was a gamble. I don't know if you go Chuba Hubbard. Like as far as last year's draft, like you can't go gamble, 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 gamble. Sure, your upside could be tremendous, but your downside's just as bad. So that roster construction always comes into play when it comes to that. Obviously, it panned out for Ben. It was a great pick. He went late in the draft. Forget how what round he went. Went pretty late. Um, but yeah, you're always gonna want to find those diamonds in the rough based on, hey, other people and knowing who you draft with, other people in my league are going to take a gamble on him. I think Ben kind of knew too he could wait on his guys, especially with the Panthers, knowing nobody's a Panther fan. No, it's true. Like you got to know your league.
Right.
You
Thank
you
you.
gotta you gotta have the
Thank you.
advantage where you can. In our league, you know for a fact there's no sneaky Chargers. It ain't gonna happen. The lad McConkley is gonna get drafted. Like there's no guys that because we got a lot of Charger fans. Same thing. We have a Denver Bronco guy. We have obviously Raider fans. You have we have two Niner fans, two huge Niner fans. You have to know your league, and you have to know if you think you know a sleeper on the Niners. Guess what? I got two other people in my league with 2 out of 12. That's more than 20% of my league. 10% of my league knows this sleeper too. So that is very key. And that's where I think Ben last year really paid off for him is that I know the Panthers better than anybody else, and they ain't nobody sniffing the Panthers. I know nobody's sniffing the Panthers, and I can wait an extra round or two knowing that these guys aren't going to get drafted. So, again, when you guys are drafting out there, I know it's early draft talk already, but you can never talk too early about the draft.
Mm-mm.
Know who's in your league, know who they're a fan of, know who they draft. You've been in leagues a long time. That's really key. I have my older brother in league who's a Raider fan too. I can't. I wasn't going to be able to wait to draft. I know he didn't pan out, but let's just say like last year's draft board, I can't sit there and wait for Zamir White. He was going to get picked up in
Right.
wherever you thought he was going to get taken. He was going to get taken. Like
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't be like, oh, no one else is going to know this guy. Like those are the things that you also take into consideration when while
I
drafting.
think you made a great point. I'm making the push that you got to have a good scope of the NFL, the league, each team. But like you said, you got to know your personal fantasy football league, and you hit it on the dot. It's exactly what I said. I know I got a solid running back here in the late rounds, and no one is gonna. In fact, when I do it, they're gonna talk shit. So it's perfect. But the point is not to pat my back for Chuba Hubbard. It's that I did my homework and I was ready to make my move when it was there, and that's it. That's it. And so going
And you
into
got to
the,
be willing to pull the trigger, right,
gotta be
Ben?
willing to pull the
You
trigger.
got to be really willing to pull the
But you
trigger.
made a good point. Like also with Andrew, all of us were dodging Malik Neighbors. We were dodging him. And it was so funny that Andrew was forced to pick him in two leagues, had the highest receptions ever as a New York Giant. Like we saw that, but Daniel Jones, like that's what we're talking about. We are talking about all the other factors, the quarterback and the GM, the coach. All of us saw that and said Malik Neighbors is no good. He ended up being fantastic, especially in the PPR league. So great point. Are you ready to pull the trigger with the information that you've gathered? Okay, but the more information you gather, the better you are in those mid rounds, and knowing your league, you're knowing, oh, well, this guy's coming up. I got two 49er fans coming. The receiver's gone. Like, I got to go a different route, or I got to play to make sure my roster is on point. So I'm excited. But like I said, just let our viewers know that's exactly what we're going to do here going forward. State of the franchise. We're picking a division. We're all going to cover the four teams, and we're going to go over all this stuff: the franchise tags, the free agents, and obviously anticipating the draft as we do this state of the franchise going forward. Nick, is there anything else that you want to cover real quick before we get into this?
No, just excited. And just for our viewers, this is the first time we're gonna try to do the whole league, state of the franchise. We've done it a couple times with just individual teams. So excited to dive into more teams. I think honestly, it's gonna help us out even more. Um, for our league is super competitive. So the fact that us four are gonna do this and we play against each other, Like we're gonna go into this league, I think, more knowledgeable than we've ever had.
Hmm.
And so that's gonna be pretty exciting. And just excited for our fans, keep coming in, keep tuning in, and hopefully we can help you guys win some championships.
I'm coming after it, Nick. I can't claim back-to-back champions, but I gotta get back to the championship game and come up on top this time. I'm motivated. I'm motivated. I'm motivated. I thought I drafted
I gotta
well.
go for that three Pete.
I
I gotta
did.
go for that three Pete.
Nope, you're not getting it. You're not getting it. You're not getting it. So, with that said, thank you, Seth, for joining us. Thanks for filling up our comment space. And don't forget, buddy, if you have a friend who wants to start gathering their information and get serious about next season, we're going to be here covering all 32 teams to close out our season 3 here at the Sports Ranter. But with that said, thank you, Nick. Thank you, Ben. Thank you, Seth, for joining us. Thanks to
Thank
the
you.
world for watching. Until next time, next Tuesday, 6 p.m. live. Peace for the journey and one love.
Peace.
Hold on.
Peace.
Cause I don't give a fuck what you say. Yeah, I'm